2021. What a journey.
Yes.
I was gonna let my hair. I was gonna let my hair down today,
Let it flow. Let it
and,
flow.
and yeah, because of Travis. Travis, is your hair long? You got it pulled back.
His hair is
Yeah.
like as long as mine. It's like down to his
Is it?
butt.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I was like, man, I'm
It's,
gonna wear my hair down today. Then I was like, no.
it's like halfway down my back, but
Mine
my hair,
was. Yeah, mine
my
was.
hair's a little thin too, so I don't have like a huge bun like she does. But
I know mine's getting thin too. It's pissing me off. I keep thinking it's because we're on the air. We already got like 20 people in here. Okay, so enough about Todd losing his hair. All right, let's play the intro real quick, and that'll give people time to come in on our first show of the new year. All right, here we go. How's it going, everybody? We got Christina and Travis in the house. They're over in Hawaii, young, in love, and I'm sure running around naked on that island on some isolated beach every night.
Mhm.
Morgan and I went out to Secret Beach one day. That was
That's
interesting.
our
nice.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know
Okay.
that the crazy thing is we went over there because we wanted to sunbathe nude. We heard you can do that. So we went down there, and you know how you get there. You have to park up there, and then you go down that big hill. And I carried a huge cooler. I filled it up, and so we went and found a spot, and we tried to sunbathe, a little bit, because and we found out that it wasn't quite set up the way that we were told. And somebody told us you could actually get arrested, but so anyway, we found a spot. Anyway, so we were there about 2 or 3 hours, and uh it was probably like 5 o'clock by the time we started to leave. When we were going back, and you had that they had like that pond. It's almost like a pond. Like when you come down that hill, there's like a little place you can just kind of swim in. And so we were in there, and Morgan couldn't keep her hands off me. And then some dude, so because we were kind of, we were in the water. There wasn't very many people there, so I think a top came off or something like that. And and we were sitting there, kind of kissing like honeymooners. We weren't doing anything, just loving each other. And then this what do you call it? The drone. A drone came over us. It was like right over us. Some pervert or something. I don't know. But anyway, so then we have to go up that hill, which is you don't even think about it, but it's a massive, massive hill. It's really a mountain, isn't it? So I mean, I'm charging up that thing. I got that cooler on me, and the only way I could do it was just to charge up it, like I was in football practice in the old days or something, right? And I'm charging up the hill, carrying it, and I had to stop about halfway. She caught up, and then I went the rest of the way. But man, it was. I mean, I was like, wow. I mean, I didn't even know where I got the energy from. I didn't know I could do that at the time, 58, 57, 58 years old. But yeah, pretty incredible place. So yeah, we couldn't get on the last time. It's funny because Travis and I were trying to get on one time and we couldn't get on. We had,
Yeah.
but I've always said it. I've always experienced it. Anytime we have issues, there's always a reason behind it. And if we have tech issues, we always have a great show. So We're here today. It's our first show in 2021. Welcome 2021. And I think it's going to be an incredible year. If we stay focused on ourselves and, don't be distracted by the distortions of this incredible divine orchestration of an illusion that we've created. And just keep charging up the hill, so to speak. But yeah, it's good to have y'all here. Thanks for coming in. And I love the way it went down. I met Travis, and we met when I was in Kauai, and it was interesting because I connected to him later, and he was, he was partnered up with somebody at the time, and he was like, yeah, by the way, we're not together, but I found somebody, and she found somebody. I thought, wow, that's cool, to be able to, because there's been so much talk about these, what do they call them, like dark twins and whatever, but some of them are meant just to like prepare you for the next, but to see people actually, come together and then move on, to a more like-minded vibration, and everybody's cool with it. Yeah, that's cool, so, and we don't know a lot about Christina, but we're going to find out. My first question is, who busted the move?
Well, I guess technically maybe I did. I guess I was the first one to reach out. So.
Oh yeah.
It was me then. Yeah.
Was it online, or was it?
Yeah. Travis had actually found me on Facebook maybe it was 2 years ago now, and at the time, like you said, he was in a relationship with someone, and so we never really connected at that time, and as time went by, and then I noticed he happened to be a little bit more active on my page, like liking my stuff and commenting, because I was starting to
throwing that fishing line out there.
Yeah. Well, I was starting to have more courage to speak my truth openly on social media, and just, speak to what I believe is absolute truth, and, truth of what we are. And those were the posts that he was, the most active on. And then I think there was like a week or two period where he was pretty active, and I was like, who is this person? And then I remember I clicked on his profile, and I saw that it said that he wasn't in a relationship anymore. And then I kind of just got this energetic prompt to reach out, because from his photos I already knew he was super attractive. So
oh, I love it.
So I reached out, and I was like, do I know you? Have we met? And then things just kind of naturally clicked from there. And I mean,
so you guys were both in Hawaii when this happened, both on the same island?
Yeah, we live in Maui. Yep.
So well, that's a pretty good sized island, but still, I mean, most of these situations, they seem to be occur, they're not in the same place geographically. So you guys, that worked out pretty good for you, especially considering all the stuff that went on this year with quarantines and all that. But that's cool.
Yeah. To find someone that we're so deeply aligned and resonate on the deepest levels, and find that in someone who lives on the tiny island of Maui, wasn't something I ever expected. But,
Yeah, it is tiny when you consider everything else. I was comparing it to Kauai, thinking, oh, that's a big island over there, but really Maui's not. I mean, so what did you like say? Hey, you want to get together? Were you that bold?
No, it's kind of, I think I just said, have we ever met before? Because I was working as a general manager of a really popular juice bar, vegan restaurant, and meet hundreds of customers every day. And so I thought maybe he had come in and I had seen him there, because we had maybe like 30 or so mutual friends. So I was like, oh, maybe he came into Choice and I met him there. So I just reached out. I was like, have we met? Do we know each other? And he was like, yeah, I don't think so. And then kind of just naturally started talking about, what's going on in the world and where we were at. And just everything was so synchronistic, and just realized how much we share. And so just really naturally in our flow to connect deeper. And then I think, we pretty much, since that first day, we talked for like hours a day, pretty much. And then we met up and did a hike on our first actual hangout.
That was your first date, a hike?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was it just the two of y'all, or y'all with the group?
Nope, just the
Just
two of us.
us, and we yeah, went down this little what do you call it? Kind of like a rock hopping hike, you know, like dry riverbed kind of. And got to a waterfall, climbed up to sit by the waterfall, and just sat there and talked.
That was
Yeah,
it.
really common day.
Lightning struck. Did it, you know, because I know people that have connected, like Morgan and I did, you know, and there is it's a virtual, you know, reality relationship, you know, I mean, because you're not in the physical presence, even though everything's changed over the last few years. I mean, as far as the, I don't know, the relevance of space and time, but I know people that when they met, it was a little bit different than when they were communicating online. Did you guys have an aha moment? Did you just know when you saw each other, or was it just kind of a gradual progression?
Actually, I remember I pulled up to his house and got out of my car, and he was on like a second floor, and I saw him kind of like lean over the balcony, and as soon as I looked up, I was like, whoa, I was like, danger, danger.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I
this
get
man
that.
is too good looking. This is gonna be fun.
It's gonna be an interesting conversation, Todd.
Right on. Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is the other thing. There's a lot of similar qualities to because I probably sat down with I don't know maybe 50 or 60 episodes with a couple, some of them more than once, but the female, the feminine, tends to know things first in most of the cases, overall, whether it be they know something's up or information comes in or they just walk into the relationship, having like Morgan having downloaded a bunch of stuff and starts to share it with him, that type of thing. Have you noticed? I mean, because you guys came together in a really powerful year. I mean, that says a lot. And the other thing I just want to say too about these relationships, even some of the ones I've talked to recently, linear time has no bearing on the quality or stature or formability of the relationship. There's another couple. I'm not sure if they're on the Big Island or if they're on Maui. Luka and Sasuke. You should reach. I'll connect you guys. Anyway, they met under very similar circumstances. He was actually living in Kauai, and she, I think, was on Maui. And he was moving to Maui. They met, and he's, I'm moving to Maui, and they've been together like 6-7 months, and they're knee deep in it, just like you guys. So that's important for people to understand. It's not about the linear timeline longevity type of thing. There's another couple, Jess and Dave were on yesterday. They're powerful.
Yeah, Jess is a good friend of mine. However, we keep talking to each other, saying we're excited to finally meet each other because we've been literally connected for over a year now, but we've never actually met in person. So I was happy to see you guys doing some chats together.
Right on.
Yeah.
Have you guys had any? You guys are what, like late 20s, something like that?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
early.
I'm almost 39.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get past about 40 and you can't tell. It's just now I'm 59, just as of 2-3 weeks ago. I can't tell anything. But have you guys there all these people, all these couples that I talk to, they have different experiences. Obviously, energetically they seem to kind of run the same course or the same trajectory. Have you guys had any recall, like past life recall, dimensional experiences, or anything like that, or is it more of a subtle, intuitive type of thing?
I guess I'll start first. I wouldn't say that many of my experiences have had anything to do with past identity. What I would say that we actually probably share a lot of is actually the path of non-identity. So pretty much every experience that I've had has been more of an energetic kind of or like angelic kind of energy or an energetic component. So it's more so like being exposed to certain layers of consciousness. Actually, sometimes having, you know, like a visual almost of a sense of like having a visual representation of like of a different lens that you're kind of seeing and perceiving through, but it's energy, you know, it's energy. And so I've had experiences like that. Anything from, you know, like some of mine were pretty profound in moments where, you know, I actually kind of went through like a descension process of sorts. From like my immediate awakening was knowing that I was pure consciousness, that I was literally just pure consciousness. That is it. To the you know, the most minute particle or deconstruction that you could find, you know. And from that point, it kind of set me on a trajectory of exploring what that means in layers of consciousness as you deconstruct that to the human and then back up again. So I've experienced myself like as like a black hole. Like I felt myself as a massive, energetically powerful black hole with like the shearing event horizon, you know, so you can actually feel that. I felt myself as a sun, like, you know, as kind of essentially both of those are kind of movers of massive complexes, cosmic complexes. So, you know, I've experienced that. I've had, one of my mystical experiences was due to the Kundalini that I had, and that was, we talked about that before as well, where I actually expanded and completely actually lost track of my body, but I actually became, you know, this cosmic being that was holding the planet, and that was my understanding of like absolute, like the dynamic and the qualities of absolute truth. Which include, you know, your unconditional universal love, the interconnectedness, the unification, the aspects of being, you know, rather than doing. Just that everything's taken care of, and it was such a profound experience that I was actually the being holding the planet. You know, so it's pretty interesting. Nothing around identity though. We've kind of shared that the whole time. It's always been about letting go of identity, letting go of all concepts. It's complete non-conceptual, just allowance and integration, you know?
No, I get that. I can relate to that.
See if she has, you know, what do you?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I've ever had any kind of past life experiences or anything like that, but I guess the way that I woke up was on my 33rd birthday, actually, 3.5 years ago, and I was just at a really, I was super depressed at the time and going through a lot in my process, and kind of spent my birthday alone in the woods and meditating super deeply and just purging and, you know, just really crying out for source to connect with me in that moment. And then it was like, I remember through tears, I was looking up at the sky, and all of a sudden the clouds parted, and it was this really magical, mystical moment where I just felt my whole entire body just surging with currents of energy, and just felt right after that kind of like this overwhelming sense of peace, and then just this being really tenderly held and cradled in like a blanket of love, and just had this
it's like a Satori moment.
This deep awareness that, you know, everything was okay, and this was like the start of, you know, basically my journey to wholeness and understanding absolute truth. And it's been pretty much ever since then. It's been you know, an alchemical transformation of just, you know, being super duper present, non-conceptual awareness of what's going on, and, you know, really being mindful of you know, embodying pure presence and absolute truth and unconditional love. And really that's the only thing I can really speak to that matters. So
you guys definitely speak the same language. You have the same frequency. It's obvious.
Isn't that amazing?
It really is. I mean, it's like talking to the same person.
Yeah, we have conversations like this while sitting on our lanai. We're just blown away because we're reading books, and we're just like, wow, it's like this is our coffee talk, and we're just chatting.
I remember when I met Morgan, I had a lot of that imagery that you were talking about. A lot of things were shown. They weren't really words. I said a few things in response to them. They just came out of my mouth, which I wouldn't normally have said. it was our first phone conversation was a few hours after we connected on Messenger, after I stalked her for 6 months and had a couple of weak come-ons to her, right? But I remember one of the things she had said to me was that, and I've heard this from quite a few people, mostly the females in the shows I've collaborated on, where they actually said, "Hey, I am not going to settle for anything else. I'm going to be celibate. I'm going to just, I'm only going to, uh, connect with what I know is not forced and so on." And but one of the things she said was that she would want somebody who could understand her what she talked about, because obviously she was an ET, and I'm sure a lot of men wanted to talk to her because she's beautiful, but to be able to talk to them, and that was something that I realized, because all of my stuff had been really personal divine episodes, including apparitions and things like that, and you're still questioning yourself, kind of like what you're talking about, Christina. I remember the same kind of thing happening to me years ago, and when that moment happened, the clouds came down from the sky, went to the other side of this pond, and then ran through me, and I'm thinking, did this shit just happen? Like it's such a personal thing, and you kind of wonder if you're sane. But what she had said was that somebody that could understand and have these conversations like you're describing, and I realized real quick that I was talking to her about stuff that I didn't talk to anybody about. I wrote about stuff, and I posted things, and I made videos, but never had a conversation, and it was just so fluid. That's the same kind of thing I pick up from the two of y'all. But and then what you said about the present moment, that's another thing that I think kind of both came natural to both of us was, what we've received on an individual level is information, it's code. How it comes in is metaphoric. It's just the way it comes in, and then you take it in, you embody it, and you move on, and you don't get stuck on the story. And it sounds like that's the frequency that you guys navigated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Just to speak to what I would say, kind of the profundity of what you just said, is like when you actually have some of these really, really deep, powerful mystical experiences, like you really want to hold on to it. You know what I mean? And that's just the nature of the game, is that when like when your identity feels something that beautiful and that amazing, like you will literally grasp onto everything that you can to keep it.
Yeah.
And and from my perspective, I'm just really thankful that the initial experience I had was or the knowing, I guess, the initial knowing that set me into my experience was a complete severing of all identity. So in that moment, it's like in the snap of a finger, just that millisecond, you download everything that you need to know to navigate your template, and your system automatically reboots. So I knew that as soon as that state started to leave, I had to I had to let it go.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like that was the hardest thing that I ever did, was just let it leave. You know what I mean? And that's essentially what I've learned along the way. Is just, for me, it's always holding that understanding and that initial moment that was truth as it's meant to be. Yeah. When everything's clean, when everything's clear, pure. So that's my navigation, but I also don't hold it as a standard. And yeah. That's kind of part of the process, is that we do all these, in the community and in life, we have all these practices, we have all these courses, these trainings, and just all these different ways to try and connect to these things. And ultimately it's like we kind of have to very carefully do the work and very carefully be mindful. It's, if you hold too much mindfulness and too much awareness, then you're actually counterproductive. So you kind of have to just be okay with, like, if let's say you have ego pop up, or you have something, a feeling or a sensation pop up, or you have a conversation with your partner, and all of a sudden it takes you by surprise, you just like sit there and you're like, oh wow, it's interesting that that's still there.
Yeah.
And you're like, huh, and you don't even have to talk it out, really.
I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just literally, you even allow, all all the presumable bad qualities to be there, the negative qualities to be there, because in truth, from truth, there's nothing wrong, and there never has been, and there's nothing to get rid of.
That's
even.
right.
Just
well, you can't.
Right.
These relationships are microcosms. It's like, so if you can't find oneness with this person in your closest circle, of life, how are you going to find it with anyone else, right? But another thing I've noticed too is that the younger couples, because if you look at even going back to 2000, well, I really didn't watch the numbers until about 2013 or 14. But if you go back a few years, obviously, there's a couple of characteristics in the demographics of, let's say, the Starseed or Lightworker Circle. One is it was 3 out of 4 were women. I know in Soulogy it was 9 out of 10 when we started 10 years ago. And now it's about 62-38, so a lot of men have stepped up. But the other thing is, if you looked at the age groups, regardless of gender, 35 to 55, with most of that being 45 to 55 was kind of the age bracket. So a lot of the people that I talked to are in that age bracket. And when it comes to the couples, the younger ones seem to have a little bit of a, to me, they seem to have a little bit more of an intuitive knowing, less explanations needed. They just have a different type of frequency, I guess. Maybe they had less to have to deprogram. I don't know, but I've noticed that in the younger people, the younger couples, they tend to be more of an androgynous frequency each within themselves. Does that resonate with you, Christina?
Yeah, I think I have a good balance of masculine and feminine energies, and I feel like Travis does too. So one thing that's really beautiful about our relationship is that we share many things, but anytime, that there's something we might not be on the same page about, or anytime we have a miscommunication, we're both really good about, we both share the same process where it's just natural for us to step back and see where we can take personal responsibility for wherever may have come up, so that anytime we come together, we always come together in love. There's never been any sort of drama or fighting or anything.
So in short, you both handle your own shift.
Absolutely.
And each time you come back together, you always return to love. That's what Mormon says. It always.
Which we understand is our natural state anyway. So it's like we're always together and we're always in our natural, normal state of being presence.
Do you think that? Because I know when we were in Kauai from. Together we were there from December the 7th until August the 7th of 2019. And guys, it's been that long. Wow. But she left for 57 days in between. I counted every one of them. But there was, from the get-go in Kauai, there was we had a lot of shared energetic experiences, including dimensional experiences, apparitions, and so on, that seemed to be connected. In other words, it was very obvious that we were supposed to be there. And you can call it grid work, or you can call it whatever you want to call it. I don't really get lost in all that, but it was very much understood that we were supposed to be there. We were supposed to be there together, that our work was beyond ourselves and each other, but there was something in let's just say in collaboration with the Mother Kauai herself, or even the Hawaiian Islands, Lemuria. There was a lot of Lemuria involved. Do you guys sense anything like that you're supposed to be there in Maui, and that is a significant part of your relationship, or do you feel like you guys will be traveling around?
I definitely, yeah, at this point, I think we both agree in terms of, clarity of language. Like there's, we basically operate from the standpoint of we are where we are, and that's why we are, and this is where we're supposed to be until it's something different. And we just notice what's happening and what's in our lives, of course. And we don't make it into anything quite so much.
Yeah.
But we do notice and observe how, for sure, how, our mutual experience is very much, and this goes for everything.
Yeah.
So don't get lost in any people or any identity, but it's like everything's so interconnected that there's always something that you're affiliated with in the greater scheme of, all of the happenings and the unfoldments. So, but Maui for sure is like a kind of a hub for massive change.
Yeah.
And yeah, interesting to just look at like your let's say your relationship dynamics, your individual energy, let's say, and your relationship with the energy of someone else and how that moves, and then your relationship with universal energy, or kind of, let's say, regional or kind of local energy like that, because you can really gauge your progress and what's truly happening, I feel like, without even knowing the details.
Yeah.
By how smooth and by how smooth and reflective and overlaying they are. You know what I mean? Like the clarity between layers, like when you see yourself very much so in her, and then you see our dynamic showing up in community and like other groups that are forming in the movements, you can really see that something's happening. And you know that the visions that are coming through are actually like, they're not individual visions. It's literally, these are things that are meant to happen. And these are people and expressions that are coming together that are part of that role. And we're just one big group. Like that's essentially what humanity is anyhow. We're just a collective I,
Exactly.
just a collective doing one thing. We have one goal. There's not 7 billion different goals,
No.
Just
and you mentioned community, and I know that you've been active in the community. We talked about it. One of the initiatives you're involved with last time you and I did a show together. But have you guys? I know there's been quarantine and lockdowns and all that, and obviously Maui's not a huge place, and I know from being in Hawaii that there is certainly the obvious community or frequency of like-minded people. The island pretty much sets the tone for that. The islands do. But have you noticed, since you guys have come together, have you noticed any type of, uh, couples talk about, people come around them. It's almost like a moth to a firelight. Sometimes they see people get expanded. We've had experiences where people that have come into our field, the next thing you know, we've had several of them, they're in a divine union, like 2 months later. There's something about the contagion of this frequency, but also triggering people, as we've all experienced in our individual journeys as well. When we walk in and we're lit, we walk into an environment, all of a sudden we start getting, projected on and attacked and all that. Have you guys noticed anything like that as you've gone out into the community, that your shine is a little bit different together as it is as opposed to when you're individuals?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's no accidents, there's no coincidences, right? So I feel like it's it's a merging really of two souls becoming one. And I feel like when that happens, then yeah, the shine is definitely brighter, the energy is more clear and resonant. And yeah, you're able to view the world through a different lens. And Maui is definitely a really great place that has, just a really great community vibe. A lot of people who are woke, if you will.
Yeah.
And,
I love that term. JP, I always think of JP Sears when someone says woke.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people here that are resonant with, the truth of what we are, and that are on, a journey of just being present and allowing, whatever's meant to be in your flow to show up and be here with it, and, to connect in that manner, and to, create change around that, so I can see there's something that we're involved in that's in a little bit of a beginning bubbling stages. The creativity is being birthed through a group of co-creators. But yeah, we're all here for the same reason. We all have a shared goal, a shared mission, and we all have our individual parts that we play together. So we're excited to see where that's gonna unfold and what it's gonna look like in 2021 for sure.
Well, on that note too, there's been a lot of talk about, obviously we're going from the age of duality to the age of Trinity, and there's been a lot of talk about what is that? The golden child energy, the third energy in the triad that these couples create, and it's there's been a lot of talk about it. And there's been people talking about the experience of it, and there's been examples of, like say soulogy with Morgan and I, or other initiatives or groups or movements or whatever. But there was several people forecasted through their downloads, Morgan being one of them, that there was a conception of a golden child in March, that the masculine and feminine energy had kind of hit a level of balance or equalization or equality, that was able to happen, and then it went on, and that the birth was on or around this winter solstice that just occurred. In regards to a third energy, which can take so many different forms. I mean, it can be in telepathy in so many different ways, so many different types of experiences. It sounds like you guys are working with that third energy to a degree in terms of what you're doing in the community. And I would imagine also you might have seen some evidence just in your individual private interactions. Does that ring true at all? Do you see that or sense that at all?
Sure.
Yeah, I was feeling a little bit of chills popping up through my body, so I figured maybe I'd take that one. But so from my standpoint, like what really seems appropriate for the conversation is that when people talk about a third energy, you can still observe that.
Mm.
But it doesn't negate it, and it doesn't devalue it. So what feels really purposeful for me to speak to is that all of this stuff is still identity based, but it's still an unfoldment. It's still happening. It's still real. You know what I mean? So these are all phenomenal experiences. These are all experiential. And so we operate within at least what's really true for us, beyond everything else that we've ever run into, is it doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter what's unfolding. You don't actually change. Like you're actually, like, you are the truth that actually holds all change anywhere perceivable, anywhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's cosmic, whether it's on Earth, whether it's in a relationship. So that's our kind of our anchoring with how we operate and how we work and how we hold just our awareness. But with that being said, yes, like you can look at so the Trinity to me is definitely like, a culmination of energies to create, like, let's say, a transformative divine expression on Earth or in anywhere, right? Yeah. So that's kind of the way I see it, is that it's all of these pieces coming together and creating balance so that, like one individual can come together and create a third energy, which is very real. But at the same time, I kind of, and that energy, I guess, magnetizes, let's say, you can look at it from like a holographic perspective or a fractal perspective, like soul fractals, soul family. You know what I mean? So it's funny how all these different layers of consciousness do get addressed and all of that. And it's not that they're not here. But we just, you know what I mean? So we acknowledge these things, but we don't, like, our attention actually just kind of goes.
No, I get you. I get you totally.
Yeah.
I get you totally. Like what you said, I think is really important too. Is
so don't get lost.
Go ahead. There's a lag.
What's that?
I said there was a lag. I didn't know you were still talking. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just said yes, so you don't get lost in it. So, because I mean, I feel like what's really important is, I mean, if you're being guided somewhere, I mean, if life is moving you somewhere or bringing something to you, I should say, if life is bringing something to you, it's really important to look at it and play it out, and learn/unlearn whatever it is that you're there to do, because everyone does have a rule, as an expression. But it's important not to get caught up on the identity of it and to from our perspective, claim credit for something. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with you, and I've watched people. That's really interesting that you guys bring this up, or navigate things this way, because again, and of course, looking at on the linear timeline, the younger versus the older group that I was talking about, things look a little different. And so there's a lot of young, what I would call youth energy that's come into the fold, as well as more masculine energy, and that's really been interesting to see that lighter frequency come in. But I love what you're saying, because what you're saying is really in regard to anything. It could be the third energy, it could be a download, it could be a past life memory. I was so and so's son, or I was Gandhi in a past life, or whatever it is. Not
Precisely.
to get attached to the messenger, but to absorb the code in the message, and to stay planted in the present, which is really, it really, to me, that's what this universal energy has been doing gradually, especially as 2020 came on, 2019, 2020, putting us all into that space of being present in the present, which is
Yeah.
really our the field of our highest potential. And then you have where two or more gather, and boom, there it goes, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. That's great advice for everybody, as we head into 2021. Is
Right.
whatever comes, and really, there's no difference between what a past trauma that we've all had. We've all had traumas in our lives, you know, hanging on to that, hanging on to, oh, when I buy this house, or when I get this job, or, some kind of future projection that you're too attached to. Or, like, I know when I met Morgan, and I was like, and she actually felt the same way. And I said, what the hell is this? How can this be? How can this be true, even after the many divine things that had happened to me in my journey? And I thought to myself, you know what? It's just the universe's way of saying, get out of the way. There's this or something better for you, either with this person or someone else. And we both understood that. I don't know who said it first, and it doesn't matter. But yeah, there's this detachment that you're talking about, that I'm referring to now, that isn't really, it's really not, to me, detaching, but it is at the human, perception, or which is a consciousness that you have to, bring to your table. But there's a level of detaching that opens up some type of, you know, um, expanded potential, I think, for couples, for individuals. Yeah.
For
Have
sure.
you? Yeah, go
It's
ahead.
kind of like, if you understand the truth of what we are, which is pure consciousness, then you understand that naturally the self that you think you are is going to dissolve. It has to dissolve.
Yeah.
So,
And it wants to ultimately.
Yeah.
yeah, because then you're able to see, with the eyes of truth, that there is no separation between you and me, or me and the divine, or the divine and anything else in all of creation, or myself and anything else in all of creation. So
Yeah.
you understand the unity of everything. And yeah, and so the self dissolves, and you
Right.
just understand the
Yeah,
beauty of what you
Jamie
are.
Williams. Jamie Williams just made a comment. She's out in California. Her and her husband have been on. They have a great story, but she said, "I love that you both are anchoring the frequency of non-identity. So beautiful."
Yeah.
And
Super.
it sounds like such a scary thing, right? And we've all had ego deaths, and but it really is weird. It's almost like another example I would give energetically, and you talked about it earlier. And if you want to kind of add to it, so you're both individuals, and you come together. There's a certain knowing. You're getting the code. You're not attaching to it. You're both congruent on that. And but there are still these points of, like you were saying earlier, where you got to go this way, you got to go that way, pull all your energy back in, you know, handle your shift, right? Handle
Mhm.
whatever's happening. You're not projecting on the other. The other's doing the same thing, handling their stuff. You come back together and it expands. So there's there's this thing about surrendering and getting to that nothingness, and then coming back if you're blessed enough to be in a partnership, and you come back and all of a sudden, boom. But it's not like you can go, okay, I'm going to go this way, you go that way, we're going to do our thing, and we know when we come back together, it's going to just explode. You can't. You actually have to hit this spot of total surrender, as we've done many times through instruction, through her channel, and otherwise. Are you willing to? Are you ready to expand? Yes. Are you willing to give up the other person in the highest, in the highest respect, and so on? Yes.
Because you're not giving anything up. See, that's the key, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's weird. Like, to the human language, it is a detachment, but the reality is, it's like the saying, I have found that I'm nothing, and in those moments of nothingness, I am everything. Right?
Mhm.
There's nothing to lose.
Yeah, and you have to go through. Every single person has this process that is going to unfold for them. You know what I mean? And what's fascinating is, like, I feel like, nothing's set in stone, of course. So I can't say that you have to experience this before you can experience this, because I could be fully wrong. Because the thing is this whole process is essentially undoing itself while it's creating itself. So essentially where we're moving is to a point where everything that I would say that you need to experience is not going to be needed to be experienced any longer, because that's the whole point of it. So it's funny. So, like, when we experience all of these challenges, the next group of people are probably going to experience less.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So and that's what I was going to speak to is, how things work, like, in a collective fashion is, for example, it's like these bringing back in energy, archangelic frequencies, shadow work, anything that you can attribute to ego and aspects of, like, the truth that we are. So all of these things, it's like, we look at what we've been doing over the last several years. I mean, more than several. and in all these paths, they're trying to get rid of things. They're you know what I mean? I mean, at least these days now we're accepting them. But let's take it even further and say, how about, besides, looking at it just as accepting that these are here, it's even like, why don't we just understand that we don't need to accept or reject anything, and actually seeing that what these things are here to do is actually navigate the collective game, the collective experience. So, for example, the shadow that we're trying to dissolve is actually the one thing that actually creates the movement.
That's the goal.
So if the shadow wasn't there, the movement wouldn't be there. That's necessary to develop and evolve what's happening. However, that's not meaning to say, like, cool, the shadow is going to be there forever, because once we understand that, the shadow dissolves. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, that you guys are good. You guys are really good. Yeah, because look, the perception gets changed, and when you change your perception, you change your consciousness, right? And so I totally get what you're saying. Morgan told me a long time ago when I met her, she says, I am a transformer in all ways. And that's taken on more and more meaning. And I think what you're talking about, people have gone, run from the shadow. I'm a love and light worker. I'm not going to look over there. And then it's become, okay, it's here. And then it's become, okay, I accept it. And I think now we're actually moving into a space of, that's the fodder for the alchemic process. I mean, that's the material, the raw material for transformation to new birth, new earth, and whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I totally agree with you. And it seems like it's taking hold. I believe that there's enough people like yourselves who have done enough work and who have expanded beyond, let's say, the methods of expansion. We're talking processes, modalities, not that they'll go away and not that they're not needed by a lot of people, but who have gotten to a point where they're moving, they're navigating this thing from matching the field that it is, which is more quantum now than it is linear. So that information, like you said, it's moving like that. It really is in a lot of ways. You break an energetic door down, a couple, an individual, a group, or whatever. Whoever comes after you isn't going to have all the scar tissue.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the beautiful things and the painful thing about whatever process you're moving through is, I can certainly, I feel like I speak for both of us, but I'll definitely let her chime in if she would like.
If you're smart, you will.
Yeah, right. Come on, Todd.
I'm just messing with. Hey, I'm not giving you any advice I don't follow. I can see that right now. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, when you look at the experience of your life, let's say, and you actually put your attention on the experience, like I can look at my life and be like, oh, wow, like I've had a lot of amazing opportunities that a lot of people haven't had and never had the opportunity of having. But at the same time, I also saw how my whole process was never able to enjoy them and be satisfied with them as well. And they never were enough. They never were, I was never whole, and I never had peace. And, so it's really interesting. And then you look through all of, it's like once I woke up, so to speak, it pretty much took even the whole framework of what I'd experienced previously in life from a human consciousness, let's say, and it basically just condensed it, put it in a nice box, through every possible, distortion in the cosmic sense in that box also, and then handed it right back to me. And I was like, what the why do I have to open this box now? I was like, I literally just found some peace. So that's the funny thing is it's like, but even that's with that initial understanding of that you are source, that you are pure consciousness, and that you are everything. When you open that box, you know that it's not you, and you know that it's just there, and it's just here for now, and it's going to leave, it's going to come and go. There's a reason for it, and you can just honor what process you're in. And then, as you said, like maybe once you open half of that box, someone else comes along, and then what do you get to do? You get to actually show them how to move through that, or not even show them, but just speak to them in a way that allows them to not have to open those same things. And that's what's really beautiful about it, is all the pain that you go through and experience. Number one, it doesn't take anything away from what you actually are.
Exactly.
It doesn't change anything.
You're not. I remember writing a piece years ago. Was you are not those things that you have done. Nothing makes you complete. You're already complete. You're already complete. You know what I mean?
Yeah, whole and complete naturally.
Yeah. And so then you can look at it from a different perspective and just, you get into some of the real truthful approaches, I think, to life, which is just let everything be what it is, and then see it through the eyes of perfection. Even if it doesn't feel perfect, that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like if it doesn't feel perfect and it hurts, it's perfect because there's something there for you and something there for everyone. And it's the unfoldment, not it's not an issue. It's not a problem. It's developing more unification in the grand scheme of things, through the process. But I guess that's kind of how I would like to chime in about that.
Yeah, and I would say, prior to waking up, it would be easy to get stuck in a loop of story of past experiences and assigning meaning to that. And I would say, once the process that you go through of transformation after you wake up, it really shatters the illusion of any sort of striving or, goals or things I have to do, things I have to attain, things I have to achieve. It shatters that illusion. So that's all that's left is simply being.
Yeah,
just
showing up. Which you already did.
So when people ask me, it's kind of funny nowadays when people ask me like, oh, like, what are you doing? Or what do you do? And it's like, I just am. I just am. I don't even know how to answer that anymore in a way.
Wasn't that a big question from our past? What do you do?
Yeah.
The questions get really confusing at that point because you don't have an identity to bounce it back with. You know what I mean? So you're just like, I huh, yeah, that's a
I
good.
sit
I
in
don't
silence
understand.
and stillness, and I'm
Yeah.
super
You know, I
sensation.
had this along the lines of what you're talking about these last few minutes. So a few days ago, like everybody, this was a very powerful month, no doubt. And a few days ago, it really hit for me. Anyway, so this download, I've often understood, you know, for a long time that I am the point of separation. It's never somebody else or something else, you know, whatever. But what I was shown was really weird. It was kind of in the to me, the universe has always been very paradoxical. You know, it's like you're getting both ends of the spectrum with one transmission. How can both ends of the spectrum be true when they're both on opposite ends of the spectrum? You know, so it's some kind of beyond my human comprehension, cosmic, you know, deal. But so what happened was it was showing me that every time there is a separation, a great, you know, people talk about the great divide. They've been talking about that a lot over the last few years in saying, oh, the great divide is getting bigger and bigger. It was showing me that each time there was a divide, okay, like let's say on the earth, there's this group over here and there's this group over here, that each time that occurred, that the space in between became a new field of potential for new creation and new earth. And I thought, wow, that's trippy, man. That's
Mhm.
trippy. But then I looked at Morgan and I, what you and I were, the three of us were talking about when we have kind of an energetic separation, right? So you have this energetic separation, both pull in all their strength and power and knowing, and then come back together. And what do you have? You have a new birth. So then I started thinking, well, wow, how did this whole thing start? Well, you had the one and the one bisected, right? And then there you go. There was the original triad. Even though it looks like it's an inverse occurrence, it's really one and the same. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
what did that happen within? You know, so what did that separation happen within? What actually was able to experience and know and see that? And that's you know that's the anchor point with all of this is that number you know like even if you can separate an experience and or where am I here we go even if you can separate like if you look at it from like a cellular biological concept and you just create a metaphor symbolism for it it's like how can source actually separate itself it's literally impossible however you can differentiate and do exactly what you're saying and you can see an experience from different parts right but that's where the beauty of what we really resonate with comes into play is that doesn't matter how many times you separate something in that field, in that understanding, it still inherently has the understanding of truth and of source in and of itself. So no matter what you create, it can be the most evil thing possible, but its inherent mechanism is that it understands what everything is, and therefore it has a place in the grand scheme. So this great divide that, like that you're referencing, it's like every single thing has a polarity to it, or, at least now it has a polarity, but at least it has a dual aspect, a dual component to it, right?
yeah.
So even the great divide, it's like we've never been more divided right now, but we've never been more
It's
united.
like, yeah, it's like you're great. It's like whatever energy complex you're referring to, the greatest, in the greatest weakness of it, you find the greatest strength. It's like
Right. Yeah.
weird. It's weird. I mean, but I
And it,
guess at the end of the day, we're here. I mean, there is no, oh, do this, do that. Like you said earlier, Christina, it's just about being. But
yeah.
if there's, let's say, a human way to kind of identify how do you do this with as much ease and grace as possible, it's basically integrating polarities day in, day out, moment by moment, interaction by interaction, right?
Yeah. There's just like there's a handful of concepts, like principles, if you will, that I feel like you don't need anything beyond like 7 or 8 sentences
Yeah.
to be totally honest. And it's just like see everything as perfection the way it is. Allow life to be what it is. Like basically rectify all polarity. So any sort of charge towards a good or a bad or a positive or a negative, basically, like you said, rectify all of that and see it as equal. So that would lead to look at everything equanimously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just understand that the energy of all things is actually benevolent.
Yeah.
So there's no misunderstanding. There's no evil. There's no malintention.
That's right.
You know, and that everything is truth. So therefore, even the stuff that doesn't look like truth is still aspects of truth. So you basically, ironically, you put your ego in a corner and it freaks out because it doesn't have anything to do anymore. And then you just allow the process to unfold. And then you even see your ego as part of the unfoldment and part of the
It's
truth.
it's got an equal representation at the round table of personal oversoul spirituality. I mean, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
The thing is, it's like ego isn't then something that doesn't have our best interest in mind. It has impulses, you know, like in all of these different aspects, but at the same time, you still have to let the concept of that go.
Yeah.
You know, so even
I totally get that. That's and I see that type of conversation and commentary becoming more accepted, more talked about, you know, in this coming year. I got to ask you before we get out of here a couple of things. One, I have to ask you because everybody's always interested in this, and no details beyond what you're comfortable with, but just in general, sacred sexuality. You both are in your 30s. I'm sure you've had, you know, previous relationships. Is for everybody wants to know this, is there a difference in the level of intimacy? And of course, I'm not just talking about the physical acts that we would think about in the old 3D, but is there a difference in the level of intimacy in this new earth frequency, in this new earth type of relationship? Christina.
You want to go first?
Sure.
And I'll chime in after.
Well, I think so. I mean, really what intimacy is all about sharing and connecting. You know, it's actually not, there's a big misconception that it's about, you know, sexuality or, you know, receiving something or being pleased in some way. And I feel like really it's just about sharing and connecting. And through that, you know, the most powerful force out there is, you know, sexual energy. It's the energy that creates life and all things, you know. So, yeah, I mean, definitely when you're with someone who resonates with, you know, the deep levels of truth, I think for sure that automatically creates deeper levels of understanding and connection and pleasure and all of that for sure. Maybe you want to that.
Right on. Well, yeah, I here. Definitely.
So yeah, I definitely, I think it's really important to, to kind of piggyback off of the topic of sexuality, of what that means. Most people think sexuality is actually just sex, and that's not even remotely the case. And so when you actually, you know, if you truly understand, it's so hard to put into words, but like, you know, if you understand what we are and what that means and how we are, and all of our aspects, you just understand that sexuality is another concept for the movement and the life force that is, you know, on a certain level. And so sexuality is the same as creativity, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I love what Christina said, because it's energy, right? I mean, we're energy. So if whatever it looks like on the physical, you know, on the superficial, on the surface, isn't really even relevant. What's relevant is the intention, the alignment, and of course the energetic aspect of it. And I think that's why, as I talk to these couples and what we've experienced too, uh, you know, it is a totally different ballgame, and with it comes things that just blow your mind. And they're like a lot of the things on our journey a lot of things on our journeys individually, which sometimes they can be very subtle. Sometimes they come in like images, you know, they come in all these different ways, but it definitely expands the field of life force potential. You know, the more I remember because Morgan downloaded Harry Oscamos, Sacred Sexuality, Divine Union for years, 15 years before I met her. And I remember, and I was very much rooted in my lower chakras, as a lot of men, my, well, anyway, we won't go there, but anyway, and I remember I was struggling from the get-go. I got it, like a part of me got it, but I couldn't sustain it. I would go into the old performance or programs or whatever. So I remember asking her one day, I said, look, you've downloaded this stuff. Do you know what we need to do? Just tell me. And she said, no, I don't entirely, but I know what we're not supposed to do. You know what I mean? And I think that really, that really made me go, oh yeah, right. And not that the patterns or the urges or whatever went away, and not that you might not engage in something that looks like what used to be, but it is definitely from an best understood, in my opinion, from an energetic standpoint.
Yeah,
That really takes care of everything. Yeah,
I'd like to say
it's
in terms of that, like what you're speaking to and what we kind of started here is that, to me, like sacred sexuality, or what I would consider, you can call it whatever you want, but like true sexuality to me is just another way of saying divine union, or of saying like, being anchored in truth, to where you, for
yeah,
example, you can feel, so your experience and your perception of reality
yeah,
is actually experienced in truth. So therefore
yeah,
you can look outside of you. Like, I mean, theoretically, you could look at the landscape and you could actually feel how you could feel the truth in it. You could feel the vitality and the beauty and the love and the awe and the joy. That to me is sacred sexuality,
yeah,
in a nutshell. But that is obviously an inside job, right?
yeah,
So sacred sexuality is not about a partner. However,
yeah.
when you have two people that can meet on that level, then the actual physical acts, right? Then like, to get into the physical aspects, like that still has a role, like that's still an experience. So then you actually experience the physical connections and interactions from a more appropriate place, and more
Absolutely.
aligned, like resonant and enjoyable place. So in
Yeah.
my eyes, it's like you're
Yeah. Yeah.
as you move forward in your process, you draw in that which allows you to experience life more fully, and then that's as simple as it kind of is.
Yeah.
And then your
Absolutely.
sexuality is like, in life, is more open and less rigid, and
Yeah.
then you know what I mean. You just have the easy flow of experience, and you can just enjoy it all. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts, or thises, or shoulds, or shouldn'ts.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
It's a hashtag mind blown. The
yeah,
way I look at it. It's just, I think, and what you said too is true. I mean, that we know sacred unions within ourselves, heritage commons is within ourselves. I mean, this isn't like, anything new, but it's becoming obvious that we have the opportunity in this dense physical matter realm to replicate in the physical the energetics within ourselves as creators. And that's really where I think that when we get further along, or when we get through this trip, uh, a lot of people have come on the show and otherwise and talked about it. I certainly feel this way, that in terms of the universal perspective, the universal family, the co-creative experience, that we're all connected and all that, that this particular playground or trip or missions or whatever you want to call it is quite extraordinary, because we are bringing it to the physicality. And that, I mean, to me, it's like we've dipped our little toe in the vast ocean, and we don't even have a clue how far this thing can go and how fast it can go. So, and I really think that whether it be romantic or non-romantic, there are connections being made one to one all over the world, that are exemplifying and representing and being this Trinity energy. And I feel like it's growing extremely fast and that these prognostications of, oh, it's going to be 2025 or 2030 or 2035 before utopia or heaven on earth arrives or whatever, I think that's just got, you
Well,
know, it's like,
you know, as a lot of people are starting to say, and whatever expression that they, you know, is right for them is, you know, heaven, technically it's like heaven's never not been here, and heaven's also a concept. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's if you say heaven's here, you know, then you have to also approach the idea of what's hell and where is that, you know, so you have to still bring those together. And so to me, it's like, to me, heaven is the yet again bridging all of your polarities and your different belief systems and fixations, so that none of it's here and you're fully empty. Because on that regard, it's like heaven is the paradox that's when you are fully empty of all concepts and all fixations, you are filled up with everything. You know?
do you guys do any type of, and before we get out of here, do you do any type of you know, not no right or wrong, but energy, anything online, anything that you can let the audience know about? A lot of times people will, most of the time, if not all the time, after shows, people from the audience or the community will reach out to the guest. So is there anything that you guys want to let us know that you're into, and how we could get a hold of you if that's the case, and also anything you're doing, continuing to do there locally in Maui, because there will be people from Maui watching the show.
I guess, is there anything that you want to share before I go? So from my standpoint, so I'm a body worker, massage therapist, and so at this point, it hasn't shown up fully to actually create a platform for myself yet. It does feel like there's something in the works, but for me, it's more like if you resonate and if you see me, then you can reach out. You're more than welcome to reach out through any means of social media or whatever, to contact me, not through a platform necessarily. And so I do, what I was going to say is about sacred sexuality too. There's, you know, part of the modality of massage that I do, or body work that I do, is actually an underbody lomi. And it's one of those things that's very, very much geared towards exactly that. And so it's kind of like using touch and your presence to actually have like an experience in your physical body of just what it means to be, you know, touched and met appropriately. And so it's like, you know, underbody, over body. So you're actually going under and over. It's like the ocean, and you're just very fluid and flowy. So that's something that I do and that I offer, and that is very valuable to me. It's not on display. It's not an offering, but I do that, and it's very much accessible if it's resonant. And outside of that, for me, yeah, I mean, I actually am part of activations in quantum technology to a degree. So I'm sure you're familiar with Jason Estes and MBO and Activation Station. And so, so I'm actually a tech facilitator for Activation Station.
Okay.
So that's something that if people are resonant with that, they can go to activationstation.org. They can check it out. They can request quantum technology, so to speak, and then yeah, we basically send it, and you receive it, and you receive an energetic download, and then you work through what's appropriate for you through that experience, you know. Yeah, and so that's what's present currently.
I noticed when you were talking about the massage thing that Christina got a big smile on her face. I won't ask anything about that though. But I'm just, hey, it's been great talking to you guys. I'd love to do it again in 2021, either individually or together. You know, one or both of you. It doesn't matter. Either one of you, because you both have, you know, a lot to talk about and a great perspective. And I just want to, you know, wish you all the best in 2021. I look forward to connecting with you again. And yeah, just keep on trucking. And thank you for what you're doing for yourself, for each other, and for the earth, because it's real. It's the real deal.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Todd.
Yeah.
Appreciate having us.
Thank you for having us. Sure.
Absolutely. And I hope to see y'all in the flesh in Hawaii sooner than later. I'll see y'all. Peace.